Welcome back everyone. This will be my Diplomat Season 2 breakdown video. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe to get all the videos. Let's get into the video. Season 2 of Netflix political thriller The Diplomat begins with a bang literally. Created by the West Wing alum Deborah Kahn and starring Kerry Russell, the series follows the titular diplomat Kate Wyler as she is appointed ambassador to the United Kingdom. Following the mysterious bombing of a British warship throughout the first season, Wyler works with the British Foreign Secretary to figure out who bombed the ship, while avoiding a possible World War III. Meanwhile, the US President also has an ulterior motive for Kate's appointment to see if she is a good choice to become the new Vice President. After a packed season, The Diplomat Season 2 ends with a cliffhanger that changes the entire series dynamic and already renewed for Season 3. By the end of Diplomat's first season, Kate has a prime suspect for the bombing, Michael Trowbridge, the UK's Prime Minister. The theory is that the British leader ordered a false flag attack on his own ship, the HMS Courageous, and framed Russia to bring the country together. Scotland's possible secession threatens his legacy. All the signs still point to Trowbridge for most of Season 2. The car bomb that went off at the end of the Season 1 killed British MP Merritt Grove, who was about to reveal the ship bombing plot to Kate's husband Hal Wyler. It also killed Kate's employee Ronnie Buckhurst and gravely injured both Hal and Kate's deputy chief Stuart Hayford soon after. Roman Lenkov, the Russian mercenary who bombed the ship, is killed before he can spill on who hired it. Kate and co have one major win, Margaret Rowling, Trowbridge's longtime advisor, who comes to Kate seeking refuge. She knows the truth of the plot, the full extent of which she will only reveal to Hal. The story she tells Kate, Rowling, Grove, and an overeager accomplice called Stendig hired Lenkov to attack the Courageous, to unite the UK, and stop the threat of the Scotland secession, and Trowbridge had no idea. She is clearly hiding some extra details from Kate's and CIA spy Idra Park, but Hal completely believes her. So Kate and Idra decide to get Rowling and Trowbridge in a room together and monitor how he responds to see whether or not the Prime Minister is in on it. They also loop in Denison, who doesn't have much to do this season. Trowbridge responds to Rowling's confession by strangling Rowling in a blind range and knocking her to the ground so hard her head starts bleeding. If that response and his subsequent shock are faked, Trowbridge missed his calling by not going to Rada instead of Oxbridge. So as it turns out, Trowbridge is innocent. After the season's first climax of Trowbridge maiming Rowling, The Diplomat brings in a heavy hitter in the fallout, the US Vice President Grace Penn. Her visit is explained as half-support mission for the whole accused the Prime Ministers of a false flag attack cleanup, and have to finally get a look at the woman who is being set up to take her job. Grace deftly hands the Trowbridge and Denison, feeding them the decision to bury the fact that British citizens coordinated a terrorist attack against their own country. And Kate, so impressed, she convinced Grace to fight to keep her job. It seems like all of the show's central conflict have been solved by the end of Season 2, Episode 5. The Courageous plot is wrapped up, and Kate won't need to become Vice President until Hal reveals the big twist. Rowling and co may have hired Lenkov, but the plan to bomb the Courageous came from Grace herself. So the Vice President of the United States planned a minor, or at least it was supposed to be, a false flag attack on British warship. The Prime Minister has no idea. The President has no idea. We don't know why Grace committed a war crime at the start of the Season 2 finale. But later we hear the explanation from the Grace herself. In the side room of an opulent British mansion, she draws out America and Russia's Arctic military positions on a world map, like she is a football coach ahead of a game. Russia has a wide open route through the Arctic and the North Atlantic, where a sub could go straight for New York. The only place where the US could detect a Russian sub along the way is Cregan, a Scottish submarine base that holds all of the UK's nuclear weaponry. However, as Grace says, the Scots hate nukes and they hate English outrage, but they really hate having a bullseye on their heads. According to Grace, if Scots secede from the UK, they would immediately close the base and Russia would likely escalate their military activity, as they did when the US removed their military presence in the past. Grace knew there was no way they could lose Cregan, so she went to Rowling. There weren't supposed to be any casualty in the attack, and Grace lives with the responsibility for the 43 deaths that came from her decisions. Penn owns the toll and counts it is the cost of protecting 40,000 or 40 million from a possible nuclear war. As proven by season 1 and 2, Kate is not interested in becoming vice president, even though the table has been set for her. Before the events of season 1, the White House discovered that Grace's husband was guilty of slight financial fraud. It still hasn't got her out by the end of season 2, but it's been assumed that Grace will be stepped out as soon as it got out. This gives President William Rayburn the chance to appoint someone to the office without them needing to campaign. Someone like Kate, deeply competent at her job but completely repulsed by the spotlight, can govern without an election. White House Chief of Staff Billy Apaya summed up the thought of putting Kate in charge of foreign policy quite poetically in season 1. Can you imagine hiring someone for a key government position just because you think they would be good at it? There are many reasons Kate is averse to the idea of becoming vice president. She already hates the flashy duties of her job as a British ambassador, so it's hard to imagine her on even more of a stage. Hal and his tendency to scheme in favor of his own agenda is also a large part of it. They were heated towards the divorce before the vice president's vote became available. But once he found out that the second gentleman role was possibly in his future, he changed course, without initially telling her, of course. However, by the end of the second season, it seems they have learned how to work together amicably again. Though it isn't clear if Hal is actually trying or slowing down amid his recovery. The final moments of season 2 show that the latter may be a serious possibility. By the start of the season 2 finale, the revelation of Grace's involvement in the courageous attack has changed everything, and Kate finally begins to accept the idea of herself as the vice president who can step in after Grace has crossed such a big line. She even tells Stuart she is interested, and he immediately starts cleaning up her image. No more dark suits, hair up in a neat bun, so she exudes her inner competence on the outside. While this is happening, Trowbridge is in number 10 feeling guilty that he doesn't want to step down for a completely missing the terrorist plot in his own government. So he recommends Grace to become the US nuclear czar and lead defensive strategy in that area. This would mean Grace stays as vice president and solidifies her decision to fight for her job once her husband's scandal comes out. Grace kindly tells Kate about the recommendation, while Stuart goes to Billy about it. Billy insists that she will squash it and is very adamant that Grace needs to go. If Stuart can keep Trowbridge from mentioning it in his speech at a dinner, Stuart succeeds, but this, in addition to the makeover, is how Grace knows that Kate's actively going after the vice president's slot. The entire debacle leads Grace to explain Reagan's importance, aka a great example of why Grace would be a great nuclear czar and Kate may be out of her depth. That night, Kate and Hal have a heated discussion. Kate recognizes that Grace made a tough call in a horrible situation and says that Grace shouldn't be punished for making a decision that had to be made. She admits that ensuring Trowbridge buried it was unfavorable, but she was arguably cutting all loose ends so peace could continue. So Kate prematurely stepped down again. But Hal isn't ready to let go of her, wanting to vice president. Hal suggests that informing Secretary of State Gannon and letting the justice system do what it must be in terms of Grace's war crimes. Kate understands that this is a half Hal's ambition, but also recognizes her duty to brief her boss on the cause of the courageous attack. It's not a completely good or selfish decision to snitch on Grace's to Gannon. So by morning, Kate decides they should tell Gannon, but Hal should be the one to do, since she needs a clean profile. She tells Hal, "I want to be the vice president." The final scene of the Diplomat Season 2 is a showdown between Kate Wyler and Grace Penn. Grace asks Kate to ensure she isn't going to tell anyone the full truth of the courageous attack. Kate insists that she won't. Grace then tells Kate to stand down and stop chasing her position, and when Kate assures she isn't, Grace asks why Kate's hair is still up in the aspiring vice president bun. Kate says that if the president asks her to take office, her answer is yes, but Grace responds that when it's clear that Kate's out of her depth and the president is just anxious, then Kate's answer should be no. Grace asks why Kate thinks she would take over the vice president, but before Kate can answer, Stuart pulls her for a call from Hal. As it turns out, Hal got dressed and went to the CIA office, prepared to support Kate and tell Gannon to be fair. He has been a good boy all season. But at that last second, he decides not to call to Gan, but the President Raven himself. The next thing we see is Hal terrified and frantic to talk to Kate, while Kate was making Vice President Penn an enemy. President Raven was so upset with Hal's news that he had a heart attack. The President is dead, and an army of Secret Service runs across Kate's lawn to get the new President, Grace Penn. So, where we are at the end of Diplomat Season 2, Grace Penn is President. Grace is very pissed at Kate Wyler. Kate is still the ambassador to the Britain, but Foreign Secretary Denison has cut ties with her, and Prime Minister Trowbridge is pissed at her too. Kate and Hal are on good terms, but who knows if that lasted through that phone call. Also, Stuart and Itra are still broken up, probably for the best since he keeps making her cry at work, even after she told him to stop making her cry at work. Most importantly, there is now a Vice President seat up for grabs, and Grace Penn is responsible for filing it. No one knows how it will be filled in the Diplomat Season 3, except creator Deborah Khan, who dropped an interesting hint while speaking with Tudum. Season 3 flips the chessboard. She told the outlet, in Season 3, Kate lives the particular nightmare that is getting what you want. If you find reference during the episode that I didn't talk about in this video, please write them down in the comments. Thanks.